Coming to you from deep in the Ozarks and Ridge Runner Studios. This is the Nursing Underground, a podcast that will help clear the white noise in medicine and politics and help you define the forest from the trees. Here is your host, David Big Dave Ezel. Welcome to the Nursing Underground.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to be with y'all again. We've had a sabbatical for a couple of weeks due to graduations and holidays and such as that. It's good to be back. And while I've been off, the big topic of discussion on the news has been this pending or possibly pending reversal of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court. I had mentioned in previous podcasts that there's more than a good chance that it would be overturned. The arguments are to reverse it were powerful. They were gaining traction way before. I mean, this started immediately after they found the abortion right that was protected constitutionally. The case we're talking about is Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health out of Mississippi. It was argued in December, and we'll probably find out next month whether the ruling will be overturned or if it will not. Things change from an initial draft, but it looks very likely that it's going to be overturned. And I'm talking about this in the healthcare because it's going to affect the way we do business if it is sent back to the states. The question they posed at the Supreme Court level was whether the law prohibiting the abortion after 15 weeks is because that's technically before the viability rule of 20 to 24 weeks, whether it's constitutional or not. In 1973, the court in R v. Wade mysteriously found a constitutional right based in the 14th Amendment that generally says if it's not viable outside the womb, you can kill it. It was questionable back then. It struck down dozens and dozens of laws that for years it was argued before. Courts, they tried to get it done several times, several thrown out, several that made it up. In case you didn't know, a little history here. The 14th Amendment was initiated in 1866 after the Civil War was over with to apply the due process and equal protection to the states. But that was 1866. We were well over 100 years later. But the pro-abortion groups, man, they love Roe, especially the federal government, and I'll tell you why shortly. Sandra Day O'Connor, who was the first woman appointed to the High Court by Ronald Reagan, said the decision was on a collision course with itself. When people were pressing viability arguments with newborn children and fetuses, Sandra Day O'Connor was under the impression that as years and development and tactics in healthcare improved quality of health, viability of longer lives and health lives, that it would diminish the impact Roe v. Wade had from the High Court, and it did. It has. The arguments have been falling left and right, not big sections of it, parts, pieces and parts. Basically, it was passed in murky quicksand. it fell when the due process clause was getting challenged. They kind of used the Ninth Amendment, which talks about disparaging the rights of the individual. Planned Parenthood versus Casey in 1992 was a plurality opinion. Between the 9 justices then in 92, they had 16 different sub-opinions written with the ruling that they honored. It was such gobbledygook in 16 different opinions, but it upheld Roe at the time. Here we are 30 years later, basically, and it looks like it's getting shot down. It's not that its rule is going to be ruled unconstitutional. It's going to be ruled federally protected constitutionally, and then it must be sent to the states for them to decide. When you start applying undue burden in arguments, which we do in the medical field all the time, we said even if we sat in there playing devil's advocate, and we're good at that in the nurses' stations with each other, that's how the court. I mean, that's how legal scholars do too. It's not just limited to law; they aren't limited to healthcare. Construction workers do it. I mean, just about every field that has a group of people working do this every day. I mean, it's nothing new. The finer points of law should be argued by attorneys. I understand that. They're just their jobs, what they went to school for. The problem is that this has as much a political problem, which could eventually lead people into the hospitals, and not from abortions, but from these mostly peaceful protests, quote unquote, that we've been known to have the last few years. Ever since the 2016 election and the pussy hat people, after Trump was elected and they were running around with these pussy hats all over D.C., people have lost their damn minds, folks. It's going to be sent back to the states. It's going to have all these policies by other states that's so extreme. But if they send it back to the states, there's like a bunch of states, I forgot exactly how many, I want to say 15, that have an automatic trigger law that's going to kick in. I'm hoping with this opinion that they won't allow the trigger laws to initiate, that they must require that the states have laws passed post date of the decision from the Supreme Court. Because maybe the trigger laws are 15 years old. Well, they were written for laws from 15 years ago and were 15 years later than that. I don't think they would be very much up to date, I guess is the best way to put it. According to the paperwork that got leaked, it was a split decision. It was 7-2. Most of the people right now and politically are going to say that it was conservative. The court stacked with conservative. These political people are going to come out of the woodwork. They already have. They've already started. They're all already hollering, oh, there's going to be fires in the streets, and we're gathering up and we're going to the judges' houses and we're going to protest out there in front of their house. Well, I mean, there's protections against protesting in front of a judge's house for anything. Approaching a judge wrong in public will get you put in jail quicker than anything. Like I said, these people are already saying that the court doesn't have any claim and they really can't overturn a previous ruling. Well, they can. Laws change. People's attitudes towards certain things change after a certain amount of time. And we'll get back to the political goings from here on out and where I think it'll go in healthcare, what I see happening. But first, we're going to get a word from our sponsor at Rocking Magnolia Customs.
Do you have a friend or family member you're having trouble buying a gift for? You just can't find the right gift for the person who has everything? Then go to Rockin' Magnolia Customs, a place where you can pick out and design the perfect gift for that special someone. That's rockinmagnoliacustoms.com or find them on Facebook at Rockin' Magnolia Customs.
I'd like to thank Amy at this time for being a sponsor of the show. Y'all be sure and you go visit rockingmagnoliacustoms.com. Rocking has no G and the customs is with the K. So go visit, get you a gift that be just unique from you to that person at rockingmagnoliacustoms.com. As I was saying before the break, it looks like the Roe v. Wade decision will be overturned. It's not surprising. I mean, the Republican Party itself has been chasing the abortion rulings all over the country and attacking abortion, people's right to choose. In my opinion, now, I'll preface something in a minute. The political actors right now are hollering that it's anti-women. It's anti-women's health. I hate to bust everybody's bubbles, but before the Roe v. Wade decision, we'd already moved abortions in-house in the hospitals. Even then, we have a different name for them. We call them DNCs, or dilations and coutrages. It's a medical procedure that washes the inside of the uterus and cleans all of the contaminants, tissue that has been left behind from spontaneous abortions or miscarriages at home. But if you don't think it won't end up back in the clinics, come on. For a small cash price, they'll do anything in a clinic as long as they can do it outpatient. And since we know now that these abortion procedures in the old way with the saline wash of the uterus and washing out the fetus tissue and all of that is nothing more than a DNC. They've cleaned it up. They don't do that internal wash as much anymore. They've got two pills. I think it's progesterone and progesterone. You take them about 2 weeks apart, and it basically causes a period to start and washes out the uterus. You've got the RU486, which is a morning after pill. It'll kick off your cycle early if you have unprotected sex, or, we're adults here. If the condom breaks, or you're on the pill, but you forgot you're on antibiotics. I mean, that's how my second kid got here. He's a Cipro baby. These politicians, especially the Republicans, have been chasing this car. They've caught the car. This decision is looking to be more unpopular even in the conservative fields. The biggest issue is I keep hearing these Republican state governors whose majority of their constituents are conservative Christians. I'm going to give that thought in just a minute. It's not going to be a popular thought. I'm probably going to make a lot of people shocked by what I say. But, as I've gotten older, there are things that just make more sense to me. But I will explain that in a minute. You're talking about 50% of the country's pro-life, 50% of the country's pro-choice. And it's not what you're going to have when we follow this, they'll have to reverse Roe v. Wade. Then they're going to have to do the opinion for Dobbs v. Jackson. And they're going to be anticipating, we've already had them calling in Congress for stacking the court. The president's already called for it. Although he may not remember he called for it, but he called for it. Some they've already started undermining the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. They are attacking Clarence Thomas and Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Judge Amy. I can't remember her last name, but they're basically threatening the judges and their families. All these protesters are. It's not going to stop there because we have a political establishment that don't care about stuff like that. They're going to want to stack the court. Some of these idiots in Congress, especially the House, particularly the Squad, are calling for insurrection to the Supreme Court. Let's go attack them. They need to pay the price if they reverse this. This is unnecessary. The members of Congress need to realize you have the lowest approval rating anybody in the country right now. You really got a bad way now. I mean, the Supreme Court usually stays around 50% approval rating. That's about right if you're going to have it. But it's nothing more than people being irresponsible because they're throwing fits. They're little babies. For years, the extreme right wing of the Republican Party, the Christian conservative side, have pushed this abortion issue as a main talking point. If we apply Occam's razor to this, where the simplest answer is usually the right answer, it's definitely with this. A poorly reasoned decision on an old case for abortion is being reviewed, comparing it to the Constitution now. The justices are basically have a fresh point of view here, and they have to reason with that, and they still have precedents of other cases they have to take into consideration. The outcome will probably tip away from the poor reasoning. It will be a reversal of the abortion issue, which doesn't make it illegal. It just makes the states decide whether inside their borders they're going to allow abortions or not. Now to what I said before. I am a Christian. I don't agree with abortion as a means of birth control. I think abortion should be set aside for special circumstances, things outside of normal control, things that need to sustain another human's life if it's at risk and the parents want, let's survive and try again another day. That's definitely their right to do. I am a Christian. I do believe in God. I also believe that it's a personal journey. I'm sure most of the Christians listening agree with that. Here's the problem. Your personal journey, your personal beliefs are interfering with the beliefs of other people. There's a reason for the separation of church and state. And the reason for the separation of church and state is quite obvious. Look what happened with the Anglican Church in England. Look what happened to the Roman Catholic Church when it was in France. You can't, by all means, you can use it as a moral guide. But when you're dealing with the public, especially in America, we do it as a general rule. You may not have morals worth a crap. You may not, but nobody can mandate that from the bench against you, but they have been. I've heard 2 or 3 governors holler with God on our side. We're going to get this overturned. Okay, that's fine. But I thought one of the pillars of being a Christian is not to be a stumbling block. You sure aren't convincing people to be Christian if you're creating your own stumbling block. So just, I have to look at it a purely legal standpoint. I really don't care what you do with your body. It's your body. If you want to abuse it, destroy it, and get yourself, please get it done. Do whatever, do you, boo, do you. The part that bothers me about this whole thing is they're basically kind of legislating personal choice away from people. I mean, it's something we've always had there, especially in the newer generations. It's not something, I mean, I could have easily been caught up in that situation. It was legalized about the time I was born, or a couple of years after I was born. I see the bigger picture with that statement. And I'm thankful for life anyway. I'm a nurse by trade. I do appreciate life. But if at any point they do not resuscitate rules in healthcare, can be affected by this decision. Now, I've had nurses, one that I really bounce ideas off of. I really, really, really appreciate her response to some of the posts that I make. She was not scared to call me to tell me exactly how she feels about it, and I love that. I don't like to argue much with her because she's like me. She don't sugarcoat and she don't hold back, and I love it. But it could possibly affect the do not resuscitate orders. Believe it or not, there are a lot of nurses that do not believe in the DNR process of healthcare. They don't believe in let nature take its course. They literally take, their idea is to preserve all life. And that is absolutely fine. That is their decision. They can do that if they want to. That's how it rolls. It just is funny to me that everybody's got their own perspectives on, oh, it's against women. Oh, it's against this. Well, you know what? That's fine. Is it going to affect any other parts of the industry that we have out there right now? Is there a way it can bleed over? And with this, there is. With this, if the state is saying that you can't have an abortion, that we feel that is killing somebody, people within the state that don't agree with the DNR concept could probably challenge the laws within the state or get it to the federal level and have it questioned. I think as a healthcare worker, the production of life is a beautiful thing. I think watching women give birth, I'm not going to use birthing person. I don't care if I offend. There's long as I've been alive and studied science in school, when it was real science, I've never seen a man give birth. I don't care what they identify by. If they're giving birth, it's going to be not a big young'un, I can promise you. I'm not going to say it. Yes, I am. I'm going to say it. There's some of them that be just barely big enough to see. Anyway, if they start challenging correctly, I have to give it to the Mississippi. They did it. They found the argument and they found a way to get it overturned. They found a way to get what they wanted out of it. In the process, helping about 29 other states 2. I think that's about how many laws, trigger laws, there's going to be, or laws that are ready to go, if it is overturned. And we're not talking about 2 or 3 weeks or a month after. We're talking about these trigger laws. As soon as the decision comes out, they will go into effect. No grace period, nothing. It just pops right into effect. And that's just as dangerous. And if somebody gets a wild hair, and death is just as beautiful a send-off as bringing life into the world is, in my opinion, as a nurse. And once you start interfering with one, you have interfered with the other, and then you've interfered with their rights and dignity of death, and or their rights and dignity of life, depending on how you look at it. I just think it's skewed reasoning. I think it's going to be more political than a health issue. The problem is everybody in healthcare has their own personal views about certain things. I do. Everybody I know does. But we're going to have to find a balance in this country with this. If a teenager decides to go figure out a way to get rid of an unwanted pregnancy, believe you me, we're going to hear about the coat hanger infections. We're going to hear about people that have I guess I think her name was Donna in the Dirty Dancing movies. We're going to have those kind of problems. And then you're going to see that all over the news for a week until they try to get what they want back. It's not fair. We've had an open discussion, but nobody can open discussion anything in this country anymore, whether it comes to health care or anything else. That's going to be the winding down of the show this week. I've been working on another story, another podcast, and that one will be next week, next Saturday. That one should be very interesting. That is we're going to talk about is these lawsuits and investigations against the travel nursing companies, the closures of nursing homes and what that means in the current situation in the healthcare industry, how it's affecting everybody locally, including here in Arkansas where I do most of my per diem work now. Everything that I've said earlier is not even a conspiracy theory anymore. It's true knowledge. I'm hoping that if this kind of blows up, it's not about capping nursing rates anymore. Now it's about finding a way to survive and keep our nurses going, keep our hospitals and nursing homes open. It's time that the people that are and do start listening to the nurses. Because if you're not, you're doing a great disservice to the rest of the country. I'm going to tell a story about a CEO. I will give you the quote now. He said, the rates are going back down and people are going to need jobs because the agencies are dropping their rates dramatically. Nurses will be back. And I can't raise rates even if I wanted to because I have to check with all the other facilities. There's the key word. I'll tell you what group's in charge of that. But I'm glad to be back. Again, this is the Nursing Underground. You'll notice there's been some changes to the format. I have a great intro guy now. In case you didn't hear, you can go back and hear it again. I'm pleasantly pleased with the response this podcast has gotten. I'm kicking off another podcast. It will be out at 6 a.m. Sunday morning. It's called The Gray State Revolution. You might want to tune into that one. That's a strictly political topic, much like this one is, but it is what it is. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Spread the word, share, tell all your friends that you need to listen to this podcast. If you're just another nurse, tell them just to tune in and listen. They can make their decision. They're grown. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish everybody, hope you have a good week. Take care and God bless.
You have been listening to The Nursing Underground, a podcast dedicated to informing you of the white noise in politics and healthcare, and helping you redefine the trees in the forest. Join Big Dave again next week in The Nursing Underground from Ridge Runner Studios.